If you're in the construction industry running Google Ads and it's not necessarily working, or you're not getting leads, it's too expensive, or you're not really getting the return on investment, this video is for you. What I'm going to do today is go through a live walkthrough of a client's account that he has given me access to. I've blurred out all the information deliberately, but the whole point of this video is to show you a live walkthrough of what I would do as a Google Ads expert looking at this account for the first time and have not done anything to it except the way it is. The very first thing I would look for is conversion events. Now, if you're in the trade industry, chances are you either want phone calls or you want someone to submit a form online by whatever means. That being said, those are really the only two conversions that you should be running. So we'll go through that now. We'll go to goals, conversions, and summary. Now, looking at all of these conversions, like we mentioned before, there's only two that you really want, which is actual phone calls and form submissions. So looking at this, we've got a purchase event. Now, these guys don't sell anything online, so this shouldn't be here at all. It does say it's a secondary, but it's just, this isn't something you should ever track. Now, we've got form submissions, and I've blurred it out because it gives it away, but looking at these form submissions, it says inactive and then active, and then we've got several thousand conversions, so I can imagine that this probably wasn't set up correctly because they've removed it as a primary, put it as a secondary, and nothing's recent. So there's too many conversions here. We've got tests, we've got calls from ads, smart campaigns. We only need two conversions, and obviously this account has had a lot of people go through it, and there's just so many conversions that just don't make any sense. Like booked appointments, they don't do booked appointments. We're tracking page views as a primary. So primary means that Google will optimize for it. Secondary means it will just count it, but it won't actually do anything. It's just more reference for you. So when we've got primary conversions and it's just a page view, so the user has looked at a page and now it's counted as a conversion, Google is going to try to get more people to look at that page. Whereas what we actually want is for Google to find us people that will call us or they'll submit a form. So there's a lot here that's basically useless towards a business and getting leads. There's just so many wrong conversions. And right here, this is what they've tracked the most. This is just a phone click. Now, phone clicks does not mean phone calls. So Google will track on the website when someone has clicked on the phone button, but it doesn't mean they've actually called. So you're tracking clicks, but it's not resulting in an actual phone call. So you haven't actually got a lead. So as far as I'm concerned, this information isn't accurate. So number one thing, the biggest takeaway is to make sure your conversions are correct. And what you want is you want phone calls. So Google has a way for you to set up the account where you put in the number that you have on the website, and Google will exchange that number on the website for one of their numbers, so it can actually track who called, what time, how long did the conversation last, and whether it counts towards a conversion. That's the way this needs to be set up. So it needs a proper phone recording. Now, if your country doesn't allow that, there are third-party apps that I can list below that do it, so you can actually track an actual phone call instead of all these phone clicks. And there's so many, and these are all the same thing, but now we're double tracking conversions, so the accurate for the rest of the campaign is going to be totally inaccurate. Now that we've looked at the conversions and determined that it's not set up correctly, I want to go through the overview data next. So first thing to look at is budget. When you're setting a budget, you always want to do 10x what the average cost per click is. So if we scroll right here, and this has spent a lot of money, so it's plenty of data. If the average cost per click is $6, you always want to do 10x that daily. So $6 means you need to spend at least $60 a day for Google to work. Because if you convert 10%, that means you're getting a lead a day, and that's ideal. So in terms of budget, you'll want to do at least 10x what the average cost per click is. And if you don't know what the cost per click is, you can always go to the keyword planner, which I'll go to now. So if I set my location to Los Angeles, and let's just do water heater replacement, get results. We'll filter by the most searches per month. And you can see here, so for water heater replacement, your top of the bid low range is $9, meaning for the low range, you want at least $100 a day worth of budget. But then the top of the bid high range is people are spending upwards of $60. So that means you'll need a budget of $600 a day to make this viable. Otherwise, you might not be bidding enough and you'll be losing out on bids. So let's go back to campaigns. So if we go back to the campaigns, the interaction rate on this performance max is a little low. Otherwise, the general click-through rate on the main campaigns is actually okay. Now, conversion rate I'm quite worried about, because we looked at the conversions before and determined that there are too many of the same things, so it's double, triple, even quadruple counting the same lead. A lot of it is not accurate. So the number of leads this client is actually getting is not actually this amount, meaning the conversion rate is a lot less. So this $50 per conversion, that could easily be $100 or even $200 per lead. So this is not an accurate number. If we have a look at settings, you can set account level conversion goals and you can set individual campaign conversion goals. So these phone calls, form submissions, and booked appointments are not necessarily going to be accurate, but you want to set these to what you actually have in the conversions, but those need to be set up correctly in the first place. Marketing objective leads, that's great. I would never leave these on. It just shows your ads to people that aren't looking on Google directly, so there's no point. The locations, you always want to do radius around your location to get the best results and for people that are actually in the radius. Budget, we spoke about that earlier, just 10x your average cost per click, that's ideal. Maximize conversions is good once you've actually got some real conversions. Target CPA, on the other hand, this is what you're telling Google is your ideal target cost per acquisition. You want to put this number as what's going to be the most profitable for you, but you can't put this number. If we go back and you're getting $50 leads and you want your average cost per lead to be $10, if you put $10 here, it's not going to work, right? Because Google doesn't know how to get you $10 leads. So if you're spending $50 cost per leads now, you want this target CPA to be within 20% of what it's at now. So we could probably safely do $45 as the CPA. And then once you're actually getting $45 leads, then you can do it again to 40 or even 35, and you slowly bring that down. But target CPA is good, but you need the data and you need the results to actually make that work. Because what you'll find is if you set this too low, it's either not going to work or Google is just not going to show your ads at all. Automatically created assets. Now, I don't typically find this working because Google will just create its own little things and oftentimes it will just be wrong. So I always recommend turning this off and you dictate exactly what you want to show on Google. Now let's go into one of these campaigns. I'll go into the one that's spent the most so far. Okay, for this, I'm just going to go into the one that's been spending the most. The rest of these are just targeted brands that are paused now because they clearly weren't working before. So we'll go into this. Now that we're looking at the actual search terms, what you have to be careful of is all these search terms. So if you install heat pumps and you go on Google right now and look up the word heat pump, what is actually going to show up there? Is it going to show up results for people that are looking to get a heat pump installed? Or is it something different? Because if it is something different, it's not going to lead to a conversion. So you always want to do keywords like heat pump installer, heat pump for living room, that sort of thing. I've blurred out all the results on this one because the conversions weren't accurate to begin with. And two, I can't tell if these keywords were actually performing correctly or not. So what you want to do is just make sure that when you put in your keywords into Google, it actually results in your service. So if you're doing hot water and you put in hot water installer near me and it just shows a whole bunch of plumbing companies, perfect, exactly what we want. However, if you put in hot water system and all that shows up as a bunch of hot water cylinders and gas units and all that sort of thing, unless you're already selling those on your website, most of you aren't, you're just providing the installation, it's not going to necessarily lead to a conversion. Like here, for example, free heat pump. I know this client doesn't want to give away things for free, but when you're bidding for free heat pump, what it's going to mean is you're paying to be in front of the keyword free heat pump. So these are the sort of keywords you need to decide whether I add it or I exclude it. And most of the time, you're going to be excluding things. Like best heat pump cost New Zealand near me for seniors. This is, again, something that's not very likely to lead to a conversion, and therefore you need to remove it from your search keywords because you're going to keep paying to show up here. And this is the primary reason why your campaign cost is so high, is because you haven't removed silly keywords like this that don't lead to a sale, but it leads to a hole in your wallet. So you want to organize these by keywords you actually want to rank for, and they always need to be exact or phrase match, because if you do broad match, Google will just bring in things from all over the country. So you always want to do things that lead to a sale, and if you're not sure, look it up on Google. Does it lead to a service or does it not? And if it doesn't, exclude it. No point in leaving it on. Now, what I want to look at now is the actual ads themselves. Now, I'll have a video later on how to write proper headlines and descriptions, but the main focus of this video is the theory behind ad headlines. And that is when someone looks up heat pump, your ad needs to actually answer the question that they have, which is if they want a heat pump installed, your ad needs to say that you install heat pumps or you sell heat pumps. Click me to find out more. And you know that this is working because your click-through rate is at least 5%. Anything lower than 5%, it means that the search queries and your ad are not aligning, and therefore you need to actually do something about it. So most of these are good. And then when we go to their conversion rates, anything above 5% is good. But you can see here, some of these conversion rates are less than 5%, which I would say that these ads are not performing very well and they need to be changed. Now, again, we don't have accurate conversion data here. So as far as I'm concerned, these conversions aren't accurate, but we can safely say that the real conversion rate is a lot less than what we have here. So with this account, it's not necessarily a problem with ad headlines. We've got more of an issue of conversions and the actual search keywords themselves. But as far as the ads are concerned, they're looking fine, but we need some proper conversions to come through that are actually phone calls and form submissions. That's going to wrap it up for this video. We've gone through why your campaigns might not be working. So we've gone through checking through your conversions to make sure they're set up correctly and they're actually tracking the correct numbers. So if you get 100 form submissions a month, you need to see 100 on your Google Ads. And if you're not, it needs to be checked. That goes the same with phone calls. Next, we've gone through the actual search keywords and determining what is worthy of being searchable and what needs to be excluded. Next, we went through the actual ads themselves. Now, in this particular case, I couldn't determine what's actually profitable and what isn't. But from what it looks like, the ads are actually getting a good click-through rate. Now they need to actually make sure that the conversions are set up correctly so we can see how many leads that these individual ads actually get. But for this account, the primary reasons that it wasn't profitable is the conversions are not set up correctly and some of the search keywords aren't done correctly either. In the next video, we'll go through actual landing pages and have a walkthrough of why your landing page might not be converting. Because one thing you need to remember is when you set up Google completely correct and everything's fine and dandy, Google is only doing about 20% of the work. So you need your landing page to do the other 80%. So they're convinced they need a repair or an installation. Now they need to know why you are the correct person to fulfill the job. If you would like us to have a professional look at your Google Ads account and see what could be done to improve it and become more profitable, you can actually book a call with our company below and we can show you exactly how that can be done.